In a small village nestled between Mount Kilimanjaro and the endless savanna, a girl named Amora was born during a rare solar eclipse. Her skin bore intricate patterns that glowed like starlight whenever she experienced joy. While beautiful, these markings had a terrible price. Anyone who touched her during these moments of happiness would age rapidly, losing years of their life within seconds. Her parents, respected elders in the village, kept her gift hidden beneath elaborate robes and traditional beadwork. They taught her to control her emotions, though it pained them to see their daughter suppress her natural joy. The village medicine woman, Mama Foroji, became her closest confidant, teaching her the ancient ways of their people while helping her understand her unique burden. As Amora grew into adolescence, her markings became more pronounced, forming patterns that mirrored the sacred symbols of their ancestors. The village elders whispered that she bore the marks of Ankai, the sky god, though none could explain their true purpose. Some nights, when the moon was full, her grandmother would tell her stories of ancient prophets who had been similarly marked, though their tales had been lost to time. Life in the village followed the rhythms of nature, with the community gathering for ceremonies, celebrations, and daily tasks. During these times, Amara would watch from afar, helping her mother prepare meals or assisting Mama Foroji with her healing work. She learned to find joy in small things: the dance of butterflies, the song of birds, the whisper of wind through the acacia trees, careful never to let her happiness overflow into the dangerous glow. The other children her age created elaborate games around the communal fire, their laughter echoing across the plains, but Amora remained apart. She developed a particular talent for storytelling, gathering the youngest children at a safe distance and weaving tales of ancient heroes and magical beings. In these moments, she could almost forget her burden, though she never failed to maintain the careful distance that kept others safe from her touch. At the age of 13, following the traditions of their people, Amora was sent to attend the prestigious wisdom school located in the sacred hills beyond their village. This ancient institution had trained generations of healers, leaders, and spiritual guides. Unlike the simple mud and thatch houses of her village, the school was built of ancient stone, its walls covered in symbols that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight, much like her own markings. The journey to the school tested her resolve immediately. Accompanied by Mama Foroji, Amora traveled for 7 days across the savannah, through territories where lions roamed freely and ancient spirits were said to walk under the cover of darkness. Each night, they made camp beneath the stars, and Mama Foroji taught her sacred songs that would protect her from those who might seek to exploit her gift. Upon arrival, Amora discovered that the school housed students from many different tribes, each bringing their own traditions and secrets. The headmistress, a stern woman named Bibi Makia, wore robes decorated with mirrors that reflected sunlight in mesmerizing patterns. Her eyes held wisdom accumulated over many decades, and she seemed to see straight through the elaborate coverings Amora wore to conceal her markings. The school operated on strict principles of discipline and tradition. Students were expected to master not only academic subjects but also the spiritual arts that had been passed down through generations. Each morning began with meditation as the sun rose over the hills, followed by lessons in healing, history, and the ancient languages of their people. The days ended with storytelling sessions where students shared tales from their tribes. However, Amora soon discovered she was not the only student carrying a heavy secret. In her dormitory, she noticed others who wore special amulets, carried mysterious burdens, or practiced unusual rituals before sleep. One girl named Zoe caught her attention particularly. She never spoke above a whisper and wore gloves made of spider silk, even in the heat of the day. Life at the Wisdom School developed a rhythm, but Amora could never fully relax. Though she excelled in her studies, particularly in the art of traditional medicine and spiritual practices, she noticed strange occurrences in the school's many mirrors. Sometimes, when passing the reflective surfaces, she would catch glimpses of a dark figure watching her, its eyes gleaming with an unnatural hunger. Among her classmates was Jabori, the son of a powerful chief from the Northern Territories. He commanded attention wherever he went, his elaborate robes and golden ornaments marking his noble status. Unlike the other students who respected the school's emphasis on humility, Jabari flaunted his wealth and status, gathering a group of admirers who hung on his every word. He seemed particularly interested in the mysteries surrounding Amora. During one evening meal, when the setting sun painted the dining hall in shades of amber, Jabari deliberately bumped into Amora, causing her to drop her wooden bowl. As she reached to catch it, her sleeve slipped, revealing a momentary flash of her glowing markings. Though brief, the incident did not escape his notice. From that moment forward, his casual interest transformed into obsession. The dark figure in the mirrors became more prominent after this incident. Sometimes Amara would wake in the middle of the night to find all the mirrors in her dormitory showing the same shadow, its form more substantial than before. She confided in Zoe, her quiet roommate, who revealed that she too had noticed strange reflections, though of a different nature. In her mirrors, she saw visions of possible futures, each more troubling than the last. Mama Faraji had taught Amara to trust her instincts, and everything within her warned of approaching danger. She began documenting the appearances of the shadow figure in her journal, noting patterns in its manifestations. The shadow appeared most strongly during the new moon, and its presence seemed to intensify whenever Jabari was nearby. Meanwhile, her markings grew more restless, often glowing without her control, forcing her to layer additional coverings over her traditional robes. In the depth of the ancient library, Amora discovered scrolls that spoke of other marked individuals throughout history. The texts were written in an old dialect that few could still read, but thanks to her studies with Mama Faraji, she could decipher their meanings. The scrolls told of those who bore the blessing of Ankai, each with different gifts that came with terrible prices. Some could heal with a touch but took on the wounds themselves, while others could see the future but aged a year for each vision. Zai began spending more time with Amora, teaching her the secret sign language she used to communicate when speaking felt dangerous. Through these silent conversations, Zai revealed her own gift. Her whispers could weave reality itself, but each time she spoke aloud, the thread of someone's fate would change, often with devastating consequences. Together, they formed a bond of understanding, two souls bearing weights that others could not comprehend. Meanwhile, Jabari's investigation into Amora's secret intensified. He recruited his followers to watch her movements, document her habits, and report any unusual occurrences. His obsession stemmed from an ancient prophecy his father had once shared, that one marked by the stars would bring either great power or terrible destruction to the one who claimed their gift. The shadow in the mirrors grew bolder, sometimes reaching out with tendrils of darkness that seemed almost solid. Amora noticed that these manifestations coincided with Jabari's attempts to uncover her secret. Through careful observation, she realized the shadow was not pursuing her but protecting her, though its methods became increasingly aggressive toward those who meant her harm. During this time, another student named Kion began to take notice of Amora. Unlike Jabari's intrusive attention, Kion's interest was gentle and respectful. He was a gifted healer who worked in the school's medicinal garden, tending to plants that could cure or kill. When their paths crossed, he never pressed for information but offered simple kindness, a rare herb to calm her nerves, a word of encouragement, or a smile that expected nothing in return. The annual harvest festival arrived, bringing with it a gathering of all the tribes whose children studied at the Wisdom School. The school grounds transformed into a vibrant celebration of culture, with dancers, musicians, and storytellers sharing their traditions. Colorful tents dotted the grounds, filled with artifacts and treasures from various regions. For Amora, this meant additional challenges in concealing her markings, as the festivities often sparked moments of joy she could not fully suppress. Jabari saw this celebration as his opportunity to expose Amora's secret. He orchestrated an elaborate plan, bribing several younger students to create a disturbance during the ceremonial dance. In the chaos that would follow, his followers would ensure Amora's protective robes were accidentally torn away, revealing her markings to everyone present. What he did not account for was the shadow that had been watching from every reflective surface. As the plan unfolded, They noticed the unusual positioning of Jabari's followers around Amora during the ceremonial dance. Using her gift of whispers, she sent a warning across the wind, knowing the price she would pay would be worth protecting her friend. The warning manifested as a sudden gust that extinguished all the ceremonial fires, plunging the gathering into darkness just as Jabari's accomplices moved to act. In the darkness, the shadow from the mirrors emerged fully for the first time, its form massive and indistinct, yet undeniably present. It moved through the crowd like a cold wind, causing those with ill intent to fall into a deep sleep where they stood. When the fires were relit, Jabari found himself alone in his scheme, his followers scattered across the ground in peaceful slumber, while Amora remained safely hidden beneath her robes. The incident left Jabari humiliated but more determined than ever. However, it also caught the attention of the school's elders, particularly Bibi Makia, who had watched the events unfold with knowing eyes. That evening, she summoned Amora to her private chambers, where mirrors of all sizes and shapes lined the walls. As Amora entered, she noticed that the shadow appeared in every reflection, but in Bibi Makia's presence, it seemed to bow in reverence. In Bibi Makia's chamber, surrounded by mirrors that seemed to hold countless secrets, the headmistress revealed knowledge that had been gathered for generations. She explained that Amora's markings were not a curse, but a sacred manifestation of ancient power that appeared once every 7 generations. The shadow in the mirrors was a guardian spirit, bound to protect those who bore the markings until they could fully understand and control their gift. Through an ancient ritual involving sacred smoke and ceremonial drums, Bibi Makia showed Amora visions of those who had carried similar markings before her. Each had faced their own trials and transformations. Some had learned to channel their gift into powerful healing, while others had become great leaders who could unite warring tribes with their presence alone. However, the visions also showed the tragic fate of those who had been exploited by others seeking to harness their power for selfish purposes. The headmistress revealed scrolls that contained prophecies about the marked ones, written in symbols that glowed with the same light as Amora's skin. According to this text, the current generation's marked one would face a choice during the approaching celestial alignment, a moment when the sun, moon, and stars would form a pattern not seen for centuries. This choice would determine not just their own fate, but the fate of all their people. As they spoke, they arrived at the chamber, drawn by an inexplicable force. Bibi Makia welcomed her, explaining that those with complementary gifts often found each other through the workings of ancient magic. Zoe's ability to weave reality through whispers was meant to work in harmony with Amora's power, though neither girl had fully understood how until this moment. Together, they represented balance, one whose joy could age, and one whose words could change fate. The revelation came with a warning: Jabari's interest in Amora's power was more dangerous than they had realized. His family belonged to an ancient society that had long sought to capture and control the power of the marked ones. Every failed attempt throughout history had resulted in catastrophe, yet they persisted, believing they could harness the power for their own purposes. The Shadow Guardian had been growing stronger and more visible because it sensed their growing threat. In the days following the revelation in Bibi Makia's chamber, Amora began intensive training to understand her gift. Under the guidance of both the headmistress and Mama Foroji, she learned that her markings responded not just to joy, but to all pure emotions. Love, compassion, and courage could make them glow without the dangerous aging effect. The key was not suppressing her feelings, as she had done for so long, but understanding their true nature. During this time, Jabari launched more subtle attacks. He spread rumors throughout the school about dark magic and dangerous secrets, carefully crafting a narrative that would turn the other students against Amora. His followers began leaving protective charms and warding symbols outside her dormitory, claiming they were protecting themselves from evil influences. The isolation might have been unbearable if not for Kion, who openly challenged these rumors and continued to show kindness despite the growing atmosphere of fear. Zoe worked alongside Amora, learning to combine their gifts in remarkable ways. When Zoe whispered stories of courage while Amora allowed her markings to glow, they discovered they could temporarily share visions of possible futures with others. However, each demonstration left them both exhausted, and Zoe's voice grew fainter with each use of her power. The price of their gifts became increasingly apparent. Power always demanded payments in kind. The Shadow Guardian became a constant presence, no longer confined to mirrors but moving freely through the school as a protective force. Students would catch glimpses of it sliding along walls or flowing across ceilings, its form becoming more defined as the celestial alignment drew nearer. Some claimed they saw it take the shape of ancient warriors or sacred animals, while others swore it appeared as a swarm of luminous butterflies that scattered at approach. Unknown to Amora, each night while she slept, the Shadow Guardian fought battles against dark forces that sought to breach the school's boundaries. Jabari's family had sent powerful shamans who attempted to break through the ancient protections surrounding the Wisdom School. The evidence of these conflicts could be seen in the strange scorch marks that appeared on the outer walls and in the increasing number of dead birds found in the courtyards each morning. The celestial alignment approached with each passing day, its impending arrival marked by increasingly strange phenomena. The stars seemed to pose with unusual brightness, and during daylight hours, shadows behaved strangely, sometimes moving against the sun. The air itself felt charged with ancient power, making even the simplest spells and rituals more potent than usual. Within the school, tension mounted as students began taking sides. Most remained fearful and distant from Amora, influenced by Jabari's carefully crafted rumors. Yet a small group, inspired by Kion's unwavering support, began to question the allegations. They noticed how the plants in the medicinal garden flourished when Amora studied there, and how peaceful the usually fractious school animals became in her presence. These observations created a divide among the students that grew deeper each day. Jabari's frustration at his failing plans manifested in increasingly desperate actions. His family sent him powerful artifacts, forbidden objects that pulsed with dark energy. Late at night, he could be seen performing complex rituals in hidden corners of the school grounds, his hands stained with the ash of burnt offerings and his eyes growing more fevered with each passing day. The Shadow Guardian responded to these activities by becoming more aggressive, actively interfering with his rituals and protecting those he sought to manipulate. Bibi Markia called a secret council with Amora, Zoe, and Kion. She revealed ancient maps showing ley lines, powerful currents of earth magic that crisscrossed the land. The Wisdom School had been built at a point where multiple ley lines intersected, and during the approaching celestial alignment, these lines would surge with power. If Jabari succeeded in capturing Amora's gift during this surge, the consequences would be catastrophic, potentially unleashing forces that had been sealed away since the time of the first marked ones. The council was interrupted by an ominous sign. All the mirrors in the school simultaneously cracked in perfect spiral patterns, and from each crack emerged a thin trail of smoke that carried whispered warnings in languages long forgotten. The Shadow Guardian manifested in its most complete form yet, appearing as a massive figure composed of shifting darkness and starlight. Through it, the voices of all previous marked ones spoke, warning of an ancient evil awakening beneath the school, stirred by Jabari's dark rituals. In the days just before the celestial alignment, the Wisdom School became a battleground of ancient forces. The very stones of the building pulsed with power, and students reported seeing visions of past events playing out in empty corridors, shadows of previous marked ones facing their own moment of destiny. The air grew thick with spiritual energy, making it difficult for anyone with magical sensitivity to sleep or concentrate. Jabari made his final preparations, drawing dark symbols across the school grounds in patterns that formed a massive ritual circle. His followers, now fewer but more fanatical, helped him place sacred objects at specific points, creating a web of dark energy that began to interfere with the school's ancient protections. The Shadow Guardian fought against these preparations, but each intervention seemed to weaken its power, as though the dark rituals were specifically designed to combat its influence. Amora, Zoe, and Kion worked tirelessly to prepare their own defenses. Kion's knowledge of medicinal plants proved invaluable as he created protective mixtures that could counteract dark magic. Zoe spent hours whispering protective spells into existence, though each utterance caused her physical pain and made her voice grow fainter. Amora practiced controlling her markings with unprecedented precision, learning to direct their power in focused ways rather than letting it flow unchecked. During a particularly intense training session, Amora discovered something remarkable. When she embraced her joy fully instead of fighting it, her markings could not only age others but could also restore youth to those who had been prematurely aged. This discovery came at a crucial moment, as she was able to heal several students who had been caught in the crossfire of Jabari's increasingly reckless experiments. However, each use of this healing power left her markings burning with an intense pain that took hours to subside. On the eve of the alignment, Bibi Malkia revealed the final piece of ancient knowledge. The choice Amora would face was not simply between good and evil, but between personal power and collective harmony. According to the prophecies, she could either channel the combined power of the celestial alignment and ley lines into herself, becoming practically immortal but losing her ability to connect with others, or she could choose to share the power, spreading it among the people but potentially losing her special abilities forever. As she contemplated this choice, the Shadow Guardian manifested around her in a protective cocoon, showing her visions of both possible futures. The night of the celestial alignment arrived with an otherworldly display of astronomical phenomena. 3 moons appeared in the sky, 2 being reflections created by the unusual spiritual energy saturating the air. Stars formed patterns that had not been seen for centuries, their light seeming to pour down in visible streams onto the school grounds. The ley lines beneath the school became visible as glowing rivers of power that pulsed in rhythm with Amora's markings. Jabari chose this moment to launch his final assault. He and his remaining followers began a dark ritual that twisted the sacred energy of the alignment, attempting to create a vortex that would forcibly draw out Amora's power. The ritual circle they had prepared began to glow with an ominous purple light, and the very air seemed to crack with malevolent energy. As the ritual progressed, shadowy figures emerged from the ground, spirits of those who had tried to steal the power of marked ones in the past, now bound to serve whoever attempted the ritual anew. Amora stood at the center of the school's grand courtyard, with Zoe and Kion flanking her protectively. The Shadow Guardian merged with her markings, creating a spectacular display of light and darkness that danced across her skin in intricate patterns. Students and teachers gathered at the windows and balconies, watching in awe as the two forces, Jabari's dark ritual and Amora's illuminated power, clashed in the space between earth and sky. In that crucial moment, facing the vortex of power that threatened to tear her gift from her body, Amora made her choice. Instead of either seizing the power for herself or simply sharing it, she found a third path. With Zoe whispering words of power and Kion grounding her with his steady presence, she turned her markings light inward, illuminating the shadows in her own heart. This act of self-knowledge and acceptance created a resonance with the Shadow Guardian, transforming it from a protector to a partner in her power. The consequences of her choice rippled out across the school grounds. The dark ritual circle shattered, its power turned back upon its creators. Jabari and his followers found themselves stripped of their magical abilities, forced to confront their own inner darkness without the shield of power to hide behind. The ley lines pulsed one final time, and the alignment reached its peak. In that moment, Amora's gift transformed, her markings became permanent but controllable, no longer carrying the curse of aging others. Instead, they gave her the ability to see and heal spiritual wounds, while the Shadow Guardian remained as a constant companion, no longer bound by mirrors but freely choosing to aid her in her work. In the years that followed the Great Convergence at the Wisdom School, tales of that night spread across the African plains, carried by storytellers who added their own flourishes but maintained the core truth. The school itself was transformed, with Bibi Makia establishing a new curriculum that incorporated the lessons learned from Amora's journey. Amora became a respected teacher at the school, her transformed gift allowing her to identify and guide other students with unique magical abilities. The Shadow Guardian, now permanently bonded to her, helped her create a new form of healing that combined light and shadow to treat both physical and spiritual ailments. Students no longer feared her presence but sought her guidance, particularly those struggling with gifts of their own. Zoe's sacrifice during the battle left her nearly voiceless, but her whispers gained a new power, the ability to help others find their true path in life. She and Amora worked together, creating a special program for gifted students that taught them to embrace their powers while understanding their limitations. Kion, whose steadfast support had proved crucial during the final battle, became the school's master herbalist, developing new healing techniques that combined traditional medicine with magical understanding. Jabori's story took an unexpected turn. Stripped of his magical abilities and forced to confront his own inner darkness, he left the school in shame. However, years later, he returned, not seeking power, but asking for a chance to make amends. Under Amora's guidance, he became an example of transformation, teaching others about the dangers of seeking power for its own sake and the importance of understanding one's true nature. The greatest change, perhaps, was in how the school dealt with unique gifts. Rather than teaching students to hide or suppress their abilities, they were taught to understand and embrace them, no matter how difficult or dangerous they seemed. The story of the marked girl who learned to transform her curse into a blessing became a cornerstone of the school's teaching, retold each year to new students as they began their own journeys of discovery. And on certain nights, when the stars aligned in particular patterns, people would see Amora walking the school grounds with her shadow guardian, their combined presence creating patterns of light and darkness that danced across the ancient stones. These nights became celebrated occasions, reminding all who witnessed them that the most powerful magic comes not from seeking to control power, but from learning to understand and accept oneself completely. The scrolls in the school's library gained a new text, the story of Amora, written in shimmering ink that seemed to glow with its own light. It served as a reminder that every gift, no matter how burdensome it might seem, carried within it the seeds of something greater. And in the years that followed, whenever a new student arrived bearing an unusual gift or struggling with a unique power, they would be first taken to read this story, to understand that they were not alone in their journey. A century after the event at the Wisdom School, the impact of Amora's choice continued to resonate throughout African magical traditions. The school became known as the place where shadows dance, attracting students from every corner of the continent who carried unique gifts or burdens of their own. Each generation added their own stories to the great tapestry of magical learning that began with Amora's transformation. The merging of light and shadow that Amora pioneered became a fundamental principle in African magical practices. Healers learned that every curse contained its own cure, and every gift its own challenge. The integration of seemingly opposing forces became the cornerstone of a new magical tradition that spread far beyond the school's ancient walls. On the 1000th night after Amora's passing, witnesses reported seeing her markings appear on the school's walls, glowing with the same intensity as they had during her life. The Shadow Guardian, faithful even beyond death, could still be glimpsed moving through the corridors, protecting new generations of gifted students. Some said that in times of great need, both Amora's spirit and her guardian would appear to guide those struggling with particularly difficult gifts. The prophecies about marks once continued, but they changed in nature. Instead of speaking of burdens and choices, they began to tell of opportunities and transformations. Each new Marks one who came to the school found their own path, guided by the wisdom of those who had come before. The aging curse that had once been seen as a terrible burden became understood as just one manifestation of a deeper power, the ability to understand and transform time itself. In the great hall of the Wisdom School, where the final battle had taken place, a mirror was created that seemed to shift and change depending on who viewed it. To some, it showed Amora in her moment of choice, surrounded by light and shadow. To others, it revealed their own potential futures, helping them understand the choices before them. But to everyone, it served as a reminder that the greatest magic comes not from power itself, but from the wisdom to use it well. Thus ended the tale of Amora, the marked girl who learned to dance with shadows, but began the greater story of how her legacy continued to transform lives through the ages. Her story became more than just a tale, it became a living tradition, passed down through generations, teaching each new student that their unique gifts, no matter how difficult they might seem, could become a source of light for others.